Without question, the answer is yes, it does. And there's multiple ways it can affect it. The bottom line is physical health and emotional health are intricately tied together, as well as even spiritual health and even financial health.
How do you even know if you are at risk for this thing called Alzheimer's disease? In the clinic, we do this 80+ gene analysis, and there is a gene called ApoE4. If you carry one SNP, just one, you have an increased risk of developing Alzheimer's disease.
We've got Congress that's acting like a bunch of drunken sailors, spending money like there's no tomorrow, right? The end of 2022, you had the lame duck Congress that passed a $1.7 trillion spending bill, but they don't have it. No country around the globe has money right now.
One big question we're going to answer today is, does mental health affect physical health? And if so, how and why?
Well, the first answer to the question is without question, the answer is yes, it does. And there's multiple ways it can affect it. The bottom line is physical health and emotional health are intricately tied together, as well as even spiritual health and even financial health. So we'll talk about those other two at a different day. But the bottom line is physical health and emotional health, you really can't have wholeness in one without wholeness in the other, can you?
Well, the short answer to that is no. When somebody is suffering from mental illness, whether it's depression, it's anxiety, it's bipolar, they're either in a chronic state of gloom and doom or fight or flight or somewhere in between. And that's not a state of balance. Those states affect functionality and how we function in life. And if we're chronically on fight or flight, or if we chronically have the blues, we aren't thinking about how can we take care of this temple or this skin bag or this body that we live in, because we're dealing with the state that our mind is in. So a person that has mental illness oftentimes doesn't eat right, oftentimes is not getting the right nutrients, and we know there are multiple nutrients that play a role in brain health. And they oftentimes don't get the right amount of exercise. So therefore, if they're not moving, they're not getting blood, oxygen, and nutrients to their tissues and their brain. So therefore, that could be worsening the problem.
So it's interesting how what we deem to be the remedy for mental illness can actually create poor health. Just a couple examples. We're not born, first of all, with medication deficiencies. I believe people could disagree that the usage of these diagnoses is like ADD, ADHD, OCD. I think they're overused, and I think they're overly capitalized on for reasons. In other words, it becomes an excuse instead of realizing that the treatment for those actually creates potential other problems. For example, most drugs in their metabolism create nutrient deficiencies, such as B vitamins and magnesium.
And vitamin D.
And vitamin D. B vitamins and magnesium specifically are necessary to create the right neurotransmitters so that we have plenty of serotonin or dopamine. So therefore, nutritional deficiencies are tied to mental illness diagnoses. And mental illness diagnoses correction with medication can create nutritional deficiencies. So you go back to it, maybe nutrition has a very holistic effect on the ability to remediate or avoid mental illness. So, and then you mentioned something key. If somebody doesn't feel good, and maybe some of these drugs create weight gain. I mean, let's look at some of them like a Zoloft or something. And a lot of weight gain, right? And they don't like themselves. They don't have any energy again because the vitamins and minerals are critical for cellular energy function. So it's almost like we've created a nightmare situation. Statistically speaking, a lot of people don't know this, but 1 in 4 Americans today, adults, are on some kind of antidepressant. That's a lot of people. I mean, and so overprescription, overdependence upon drugs, underutilization of this connection we're talking about has created a nightmare for us in our society.
Well, a few of the tips that we can give people that might be depressed or have anxiety or mental illness, some of the things that we can do that are not that expensive, number one, is move. Get yourself moving every single day, at least 15 minutes, so you get blood, oxygen, and nutrients to your tissues. Our body has its own pharmacy. It's going to make chemicals on its own. We're engineered that way. Number two is possibly take Kingdom Fuel at least once a day. It's a broad-based multivitamin, so you're going to get a little bit of all of the players that play an important role in cellular function. Then get your vitamin D levels up there. If you don't have the means to get it checked, 5,000 international units of vitamin D with K2 is a good number to go with so that you get proper vitamin D. Vitamin D is an antidepressant. We all know that when the sun goes behind the clouds in the wintertime, there's the moody blues that come with it. It's called seasonal affective disorder. So when vitamin D levels drop low, here come the moody blues. So keep your vitamin D levels optimal. Then there's also our friend, the omega-3s. Our bodies don't make omega-3s. If we don't get them from the outside, we're robbing our brain of the very important nutrients that are in the cellular matrix of brain tissue, brain matter, gray matter, the stuff that helps you think, motivate, and get things done. So 3 things: Kingdom Fuel, vitamin D, omega-3s, and that last thing, movement. Get all those nutrients moving through your tissues so that your body can make those neurotransmitters on its own.
I think that a lot of people that find themselves in that spiral of they've been diagnosed with some sort of a mental health or mental disorder, they believe that that's the final answer. But it's not the final answer. You got to know, folks, that there's other answers out here. So we encourage you to see yourself as valuable, see yourself as having worth, and realize that, again, no one's out here born with this medication deficiency, but just please understand that there are things that you can do, like we talked about, the vitamin D, the omegas, the movement, the Kingdom Fuel, nutrition. Connect with people that are holistic minded to realize that maybe there's a way. We work with people a lot. It takes some time. Sometimes it takes years to wean them away from the chemical dependence of some of these things. And you got to don't go cold turkey off because you heard, well, I'm not born with a drug deficiency, so I'm going to stop. Don't do that. Very important. Do not go off cold turkey. But you don't have to allow mental health to affect your physical health in a negative way. On the opposite side of that, you can allow mental health and physical health to work in tandem together so you can have a great, great life.
Nobody wants to lose their mind. We're going to talk about how we can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's.
You don't have to lose your mind. Find out how next.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does 2 things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
Let's get real. Most emergency food is just as bad for you as any other choice in the standard American diet. And that's just sad.
We don't just need food. We need highly nutritional food.
We don't just want to survive food shortages. We are meant to thrive in adversity.
Complete your daily nutrition and have shelf-stable Kingdom Fuel as a cornerstone of your food supply.
Don't sacrifice your health or your taste buds.
Stock up on Kingdom Fuel now. The body's amazing at recovery, so you want to give it every chance, no matter what time it is. So in that context, no, it's certainly never too late. You're never too old to start trying to be healthy.
No matter where you are in terms of your health, that you can turn this around.
It's never too late to start a wellness program, and it's never too late to reach your healthcare goals. There's an old adage, and I'm not sure where it came from, but I really do like it. And they say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
We just want people to hang on to hope.
We are hope dealers. And if you are not paying attention to the 4 foundational pillars of health, physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, eventually it is going to catch up.
If we get all those 4 areas right, and we do it right, we see a dynamic occur in the middle called wellness, and that's where people get better. Their health is really going to return as a side effect of wellness.
Let's shine the spotlight on one of our star supplements.
The human body can make most of the types of fats it needs from other fats or raw materials, but not omega-3 fatty acids, also called omega-3 fats or N3 fats.
These are essential fats that the body must get from food.
Biomega 1000 provides a potent dose of omega-3 essential fatty acids sourced from a strategically placed fishing facility in the far South Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile.
Each capsule delivers an impressive 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, and the capsules also contain vitamin E. See the link below for a special offer, and remember, don't be fooled by cheap online knockoffs. One of the big worries and fears, I think, of all human beings is this thing called Alzheimer's disease. Yeah. Nobody wants to lose their mind. Nobody wants to lose their cognitive function and see their cognition decline. We want to talk today about how we can reduce the risk of that potential of even setting in.
According to most experts that study this idea of Alzheimer's dementia, these brain diseases, there's 3 components that kind of go awry. One, we've talked about a lot before, is the absence of hormones. For example, statistically speaking, women are 8 times more likely to get Alzheimer's dementia than men. So we need to get our hormones balanced. Number 2, there's such a thing as type 3 diabetes, which is really insulin resistance of the brain. So type 2 diabetes, that's too much blood sugar. That will affect the brain. The brain becomes insulin resistant. It can't use glucose. So we've got hormones, insulin resistance of the brain, and number 3 is toxins, because the brain is fat. There has been numerous documented cases where people have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and it was mold toxicity or heavy metal toxicity. So we've got to really deal with those 3 areas. So obviously the first one is balance your hormones, right?
Absolutely, balance your hormones. And how do you even know if you are at risk for this thing called Alzheimer's disease? In the clinic, we do this 80-plus gene analysis. And there is a gene called ApoE4. If you carry one SNP, just one, you have an increased risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Now we know genes are the loaded gun, and it's environment that pulls the trigger. So if you put the standard American diet on board of an ApoE4 genotype, that is the devil's playground for Alzheimer's disease. You're predisposing yourself to this issue. Number 2 is you also want to stay away from excessive amounts of alcohol. Mm-hmm. Alcohol is very toxic for somebody who carries this ApoE4 genotype. We also know that in this ApoE4 genotype, these individuals do not offload DHA, dihexapentanoic acid, to the brain very well. So they have to have not only an optimal omega index, we might need to push that DHA just a little bit higher so that we saturate that brain tissue with DHA.
Well, that's a lot of stuff. And I think when you look at the whole idea, I think we need to understand some things they can do physically speaking too. Keep the brain fresh, man. There's something called brain-derived neurotropic factor.
That's right.
BDNF. Think about it as brain fertilizer. How do we get brain fertilizer anyway? We can actually do some activities, crossword puzzles, challenge yourself, solitaire, Sudoku, working to learn new languages, expanding those little neural pathways. Because what happens in life is the more you do the things that you've always done, you lose the ability to do the things you've never done. And so when you get those neural mechanisms firing together, the more you fire together, you wire it together. And the more you do that, the less you can get out of it. In other words, the statement goes like this: it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. In other words, the longer you live, your world gets smaller because you stop doing things. You get real habitual. You don't travel anymore. You don't try new things. You don't learn new things. We have got to keep the adventurousness alive the more we age. And so that keeps the brain fresh, allowing it to grow, forcing it to grow. And we can create more neuroplasticity like a child. A child has so much. It's not that we're not utilizing our brains correctly. We're utilizing our brains incorrectly. That's the point. Some people say, well, you're only using this much of your brain. No, you're not. You're using the brain incorrectly like that. So you can expand it, learn new languages, do more things. Exercise is really important. Meeting new people, reading books that are like beyond something you know. I mean, I read a lot of books. I don't want to lose my mind, you know?
Right.
And so you keep your mind fresh, keep it inquisitive, and that actually helps you.
And also, there's this thing called hardening of the arteries. The arteries get a little bit stiffer as we get older, and they don't offload nutrients to the tissues like they did back in your 20s. So it's very important to keep that stuff that's at the end of your fork, your nutrition, anti-inflammatory, because inflaming the vessels 365 days of the year, over 40, 50, 60 years, those vessels get stiff and they become less able to diffuse the nutrients into the tissues. With hardening of the arteries, it's not just Alzheimer's disease. It can be frontal lobe dementia or vascular dementia. So nobody wants to lose their mind. Nutrition is important. Supplementation is important. Hormone balance is important. Exercise is important. And we have to do all these things for the long haul if we don't want to, no pun intended, lose our minds.
No kidding. We can't lose. We can't lose our sleep either. We forget the idea that the brain goes through this it's called a glymphatic drainage process at night. The little spaces between the neurons can kind of clean out. So as we age, we produce less melatonin. So we sleep less, and that's not okay. Some people say, well, that's all I need. No, you need more. So take melatonin. That can help you with brain health as well. Anti-inflammatory diet, that's also important. So all of these things we talked about can help as far as to avoid this idea of losing your mind. You owe it to yourself, friend, to make sure that your mind is completely stimulated a lot so that you can continue to learn and grow up into your aging years. And it's fine. You don't have to do that because ultimately you lose your mind. Other people have to care for you. And it's been said that the caregivers for people that have lost their mind suffer more than the people that have lost their mind because the people who are losing their mind don't know they're suffering. So you get our drift with this. So for brain health, put these things into practice and you won't have to worry about that wicked Alzheimer's dementia process.
Up next, our financial guru, Kirk Elliott, gives us advice on what you need to know at this time in history.
How can boosting your daily nutrition save you money? I'm Dr. Michele Sherwood.
And I'm Dr. Mark Sherwood. Kingdom Fuel costs about a third of the average lunch and will supersize your nutrition.
Our unique meal shakes are balanced, low glycemic, rich in fiber with 20 grams of clean protein, essential vitamins and minerals, healthy fats, and organic fruits and vegetables.
Kingdom Fuel is a simple start to a transformed life.
Hello, I'm Kevin Sorbo. Now, there's an old saying, it's not what you know, but who you know that matters. Now, that's true in our careers, spiritual life, and when it comes to our health and overall well-being. Today, most of us know a lot of information about health and nutrition, but are we really doing anything with it? So here's what I've learned from working with Doctors Michele and Mark Sherwood. They're the founders of the Functional Medical Institute. You need a wellness plan that's customized based on your unique needs. Now remember, real change can only happen when you address the whole person. That is exactly what Mark and Michele do, and why they are people you should know. They'll help you discover what you need to experience transformation. Find out at Sherwood.tv/Sorbo. That's Sherwood.tv/Sorbo, or just see the link below. Have a great day and God bless.
Let's shine the spotlight on one of our star supplements.
The human body can make most of the types of fats it needs from other fats or raw materials, but not omega-3 fatty acids, also called omega-3 fats or N3 fats.
These are essential fats that the body must get from food.
Biomega 1000 provides a potent dose of omega-3 essential fatty acids sourced from a strategically placed fishing facility in the far South Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile.
Each capsule delivers an impressive 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, and the capsules also contain vitamin E. See the link below for a special offer, and remember, don't be fooled by cheap online knockoffs.
Hey, Mark, great to be with you again. I wish it could be with better news, right? But yet I do have a smile on my face because there's solutions. So make sure you watch this whole video because we do have solutions for this. But what I want to talk about is the unrelenting spending happening in America right now. We've got Congress that's acting like a bunch of drunken sailors, spending money like there's no tomorrow, right? The end of 2022, you had the lame duck Congress that passed a $1.7 trillion spending bill, right? 1.7 trillion. Now, I wouldn't have such an issue with it if we actually had $1.7 trillion laying around. Then you just be allocating what you already have and, just saying where it's going to go. But they don't have it. No country around the globe has money right now, right? Because 2 years of COVID, 2 years plus of COVID, people weren't spending. There's supply chain disruptions. There's issues. There's higher taxation. Now, so what did that force countries to do? Print money like there's no tomorrow to try to inflate or die. Because if they didn't, there wasn't enough government tax revenue from sales tax revenues, property tax revenues, income tax revenues to actually fund the government. Because it's a global economic slowdown. And in fact, projections just the second week in January came out that because of all the fracturing of countries in this globalized world, right? Because of import and export controls, what Russia's doing now and telling America and the G7 nations, which are the US, the Western industrialized economies of Europe, Japan, right? It's like, hey, you guys signed the stupid accord that capped Russian oil at $60 a barrel when oil was 79. And back when he did that on December 3rd, when Biden signed that into law, I said, if I were Putin, I wouldn't sell to those countries, right? Why would I sell them oil at a $19 barrel loss? And sure enough, December 28th, he said exactly that. He said, I'm not selling you any oil come February 1st. So what's that going to do to the price of oil? Make it go possibly double, because Russia is the largest supplier of oil and gas in the whole world. Right. And we're talking about the G7 industrialized nations. They're not chump change either. Right. So oil is going to go through the roof. If we think we've seen even the middle to the end of inflation yet, you're kidding yourselves. We haven't. So inflation is going to come. Oil prices are going to go through the roof. And I don't care if you're the biggest green proponent on the planet and you have your solar power, your wind power, and your electric Tesla, right? They all use petroleum. There's oil in the gears, right, of any machine and any windmill. There's oil in the bearings and grease of your tires in your electric car. Petroleum products are used in the plastic on your dashboard in your electric car, right? So there's no getting around it. Inflation is going to be coming. And we've got a Congress that's spending money like there's no tomorrow. And like we talked about on a previous show, the potential run on the banks and the FDIC being underinsured, what would be the end result of that? The mother of all quantitative easing, probably $5 to $7 trillion on top of the $1.7 trillion that they just spent, on top of them having to raise the debt ceiling yet again, right? So we're talking about all these different spending projects that are all in the trillions. We don't have the money. So inflation is going to persist because government revenues aren't there. So therefore, they're going to have to print without discretion like there's no tomorrow, right? So how do you protect yourselves? like we've talked, and I admit I sound like a broken record, like a one-hit wonder, right? But if there was something else that we could do to protect and preserve, I would say it. We would do it. I don't care what the asset is, as long as it minimizes our risk, maximizes our return. So your IRAs, they need to be reallocated into gold and silver. Your brokerage accounts need to be reallocated into gold and silver. Your bank account shouldn't have too much cash because the banks are at risk, right? So give our office a call. Take advantage of these trends so the trends don't take advantage of you. Get out of harm's way into gold and silver, which are growing like crazy, Mark. Crazy. I mean, we're up 98% in silver over the last 2.5 years, but the more immediate trend over the last 12 weeks, we're seeing up 40%. That's incredible. In a world where there's so much fear, there's so much uncertainty, there's so much doubt, this can put a smile on your face. So give us a call. We'd love to help you out. Mark has arranged for that to happen. We'll take good care of you. Free consultations, right? 720-605-3900. Just say Dr. Mark sent you, or simply you can go to kirkelliottphd.com/Sherwood and get on our calendars for that free consultation. We'll help you out.
Let's shine the spotlight on one of our star supplements.
The human body can make most of the types of fats it needs from other fats or raw materials, but not omega-3 fatty acids, also called omega-3 fats or N3 fats.
These are essential fats that the body must get from food.
Biomega 1000 provides a potent dose of omega-3 essential fatty acids sourced from a strategically placed fishing facility in the far South Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile.
Each capsule delivers an impressive 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, and the capsules also contain vitamin E. See the link below for a special offer, and remember, don't be fooled by cheap online knockoffs.
I know you are God. I can't believe I trusted you.
I'm Michele. I'd love to work here.
Do you have what it takes to be a champion?
Yes, Master, I do.
We need to get you in more competition. National?
And finally, the Olympic team selection tournament.
Did somebody try to hurt you again?
Yes. But I don't think anyone will ever believe me.
She's working on being a homeless Olympic champion, and now she has somebody footing the bill for college so she can become a doctor.
We have to pray on the list, so that in all of God's glory, each item on the list will come to a fruitful and gratifying beginning.